My cats won't stop staring into empty rooms. Let me start from the beginning. I grew up a cat hater in a family of cat haters. I was raised with dogs, and I never thought I'd enjoy the company of a feline, much less have my well-being depend upon one. Let me start. A few weeks ago, I moved into a new condo with my girlfriend. We were excited about getting a dog, but an oversight on my part led us to signing a unit which only permitted cats. Fortunately, we were only signed for 9 months to start, and we hoped to adopt a dog at the end of that lease and move into a new unit. During the course of settling in, we discovered that we were not alone, and we would soon be confronted by 3 uninvited guests. The first 2 arrived within the first week there. It was a rainy, stormy night, and a particularly loud crash of thunder awoke us. We jumped out of the bed and ran around the condo, shutting the windows we mistakenly left open as the wind blew in buckets of water. I was upstairs when Lacey, my girlfriend, started frantically calling for me from the downstairs kitchen. Alarmed, I ran downstairs, and to my amazement, I found the window screen pushed open and on the floor, and I found Lacey peering over the double sink with consternation. I came up to her and I noticed what was in the sink, what had apparently barged into our home. A pair of stunningly beautiful black and white cats sat in the sink. The calm creatures stared up at us with pairs of brilliant, wide, unblinking green eyes. Lacey explained that one appeared in the windowsill and slowly headbutted its way through the screen. After hopping into the dry sink tub, Lacey tried to replace the screen and shut the window. But during that attempt, a slightly larger cat jumped inside, knocking the screen down to the floor. They started to let out small meows. I honestly wasn't sure how to interact with cats, as crazy as that sounds. Fortunately, the internet is practically a cat handling manual, so after conducting some quick research, I first extended an open hand low under the chin of the smaller cat and pushed slowly towards his nose so he could smell me. I was immediately rewarded with a chirp, a purr, and a headbutt into my hand. As thunder and rain crashed down outside, I knew, at least for now, the 2 cats were here to stay. And to that end, I was off to the store for cat litter and kibbles. Naturally, we thought the 2 were very friendly cats. They had to be somebody's lost pets. We posted flyers the next day and took them to the vet to see if they were microchipped. Other than being male, healthy, 3-year-old domestic short hairs with tuxedo patterns, they were not chipped, and the responses to the flyers were also amiss. Several people contacted us about the possibility of adopting them from us, but no one claimed previous ownership. It was around that time that they started to cuddle with us at night that we decided to adopt them ourselves. We had no idea what to call them, so Lacey turned to her 3rd grade class for naming inspiration. Out of the 20 pair names her students suggested, Gizmo and Gadget topped them all. We flipped a coin to decide who would be named what. The name Gadget ended up going to the slightly larger, slightly darker cat. My anti-cat bias melted away with each flick of their sandpaper tongues and flop on my lap after a long day. I went from believing cats were deceptive creatures and high-strung yet lazy to the point of worthlessness, to accepting them as who and what they were. While they were animals of luxury and comfort, they were also bizarre and inherently eerie. They were crazed animals with slinky long bodies, retractable razors, and an endless capacity to destroy things both high and low, flesh and wood. They were small predators with alien heads, huge spooky eyes, cavernous ears, and spectral qualities which allowed them to disappear and reappear in the oddest of places effortlessly. Though I had grown to love them, the cat is inherently a haunting and haunted creature. They are both at times possessed and possessing. I knew I was certainly possessed by them as I found myself missing them while at work, spending far more time lounging with them, scratching their heads and rubbing their soft, luxurious, purring bellies with reckless abandon. And when I wasn't doing that, I was taking photos of them and posting them to Facebook and shamelessly promoting them, even in their most mundane antics. I felt terrible. I had spent so much of my life hating these animals that had far more love to give than I could possibly imagine. Of course, it wasn't all good. There's at least one quality of the cat, and especially Gizmo and Gadget, that was particularly unnerving. This peculiar quality, this trait, coincided with the arrival of the third uninvited guest, an apparent unnoticed stowaway aboard the furniture given to us from Lacey's passing grandmother. Full disclosure, the condo was new, clean, and large, but is also harshly furnished and decorated, featuring recessed panel lighting, ceramic tile floors, thin, shiny leather and metal furniture, metallic and glass cupboards covering most of the walls, and flat gray carpeting robbed the condo of any homey feeling and engendered a sense that I was aboard some mid-90s sci-fi TV show starship. Furthermore, some of the rooms were particularly barren and felt disproportionately large, such as the large, partially finished basement and the cavernous master bedroom-bathroom combo. We eagerly welcomed the donation of a storage shed full of well-maintained turn-of-the-century furnishings to turn our home into something a little cozier on the inside. Among a new bed, a love seat, 2 wooden tables, and several chairs, we also recovered a large, ornate white bathtub from the storage unit. I will admit that I was not thrilled about taking the bathtub from the start of things. While it was nicely decorated, especially with the flake gold accents on the claw-like feet and the flake gold markings on the side which read HHH, it was, frankly, a ton of unnecessary work. It was a lot of work to move it from the unit to the condo, up the stairs, and into the bathroom. It was a lot of work to hook up the plumbing. It was also a lot of work to clean. The cats were initially fans of the new resting places added around their environment. Gizmo took up lounging in a sprawling regal fashion on the new love seat, while Gadget liked to play hide-and-seek under the new table and chairs. It wasn't until that first night home with the new items that Gizmo and Gadget started their unnerving activity. I was getting ready for bed, which usually meant Gizmo and Gadget would gather themselves from the basement to begin their pilgrimage to the bedroom. I was surprised when they failed to congregate around me as my trek upstairs began. Instead, I found them staring at the open door to the bedroom, staring through the bedroom all the way to the wall of the master bathroom. Perhaps, dare I say, through the wall, beyond the wall even. They were utterly transfixed on something unseen by me. They refused to follow me into the bedroom for cozy nighttime snuggles, and instead bolted down the hall and downstairs in a little kitty stampede. After the 4th night in a row of this staring and retreating activity, I went online to investigate. Apparently, it is often discussed among cat owners that they are unnerved by their cat's stern, focused stares at walls, the ceiling, and apparent empty spaces around their home. It's a running joke that their kittens are detecting ghosts, demons, or some other unknown, unseen entity. And I suppose my entire purpose of writing this article is to inform the skeptics and the jokers that they are in the wrong, and the believers are in the right. I don't have an explanation for the events that followed. It is only now, in reflection, that I think of my passing comment Lacey made to me about increased sunspot activity that week, which may account in part for the steady escalation of paranormal events in the condo. As a rational, educated man, I am probably grasping at straws while attempting to give cause to a phenomena that, like cats, I had previously disregarded and derided. 5 days after moving the furniture into the condo, Gadget seemed to disappear. Lacey and I turned the condo inside out and upside down trying to find him, but he was nowhere to be seen. We checked all around the property and all the doors and windows to determine if somehow maybe he had gotten out. To our horror, in our exploration, we found his red collar in the new bathtub's drain. Adding to the mystery, the collar had appeared to be chemically bleached, and the metal name tag was horribly corroded as if it had been exposed to some sort of strong acid. We posted flyers about Gadget's disappearance, but no one turned anything up. We were very sad about Gadget, but we refused to believe that somehow the bathtub ate him. We were concerned also about Gizmo. Gizmo was acting very differently. He had become particularly skittish, clinging to the high areas and the walls behind the furniture. He was also partial to the basement, especially the area where we had tall stacks of storage boxes. And then things went from bad to worse. A bad smell, harsh and chemically, would blow through the condo periodically. We could not determine the source. The metallic furniture in the living room acquired a thin layer of rust, literally overnight. Lastly, there was the noise. We started hearing a loud thunk in the middle of the night. It was as loud as thunder and sounded like someone dropping weights at the gym. We weren't sure where it was coming from in the house. I'll be honest here. As the condo owner, it was incumbent upon me to go investigate the source of that noise, and I did so with pure dread in my heart. I searched the house on the first and the second night of the noise. Each time I found nothing unusual, except for Gizmo anxiously growling and circling different rooms. The third night of hearing the noise was, to say the least, transformative. Lacey was asleep. I couldn't sleep. I was replaying the events of the past week in my head. I was looking for the connections. I had a terrible stomachache thinking about Gadget. Not only did I hopelessly miss that cat, I knew I was missing what was really going on here. A long thunk echoed through the house. Right on time, I thought, as if by clockwork. I swallowed the scared metallic taste in my mouth, and I slowly rose from the bed, hoping to finally figure out the source of that noise. I methodically searched each room and ended up in the basement. I was afraid. I was afraid while thinking about ghosts or goblins for the first time since I was a kid. I was thinking about Gadget and how he disappeared and whether or not that could happen to me too. I went down the stairs to the basement and poked my head in. I was afraid to turn on the light. Something told me not to. Something told me I'd find nothing that I would like. The stream of light from the street into the storm drain would have been enough. I scanned the room, and in the corner with the totes and boxes stacked high to the ceiling, I saw a flash of two eyes at head height appear and vanish. My heart jumped, and I immediately went back upstairs. I quickly talked myself into thinking that I had just seen Gizmo on the prowl among the stack of boxes. It had to be him. I went to hang my head low as I entered the bedroom again and went to the nightstand. I opened the drawer and reached for the flashlight. I was in a full-blown panic for no good reason. I was trapped between investigating the eyes and assuming it was just Gizmo. It was then that Lacey rolled over and she let out a sleepy groan. "Did you figure out the noise?" she asked in her half-asleep voice. "No," I said, "but I'm pretty sure Gizmo is hiding among the Christmas decorations." "No, he's not." I shuddered and tasted pennies in my mouth as she spoke. "Gizmo's in the bathroom. I can hear him." I was too scared to breathe as I grabbed the flashlight and braced myself for going down to the basement again to confront whatever I may or may not have seen down there. But first, I needed to know that Gizmo was in fact in the bathroom, so I turned my head towards the master bathroom. Staring back at me were two white eyes hovering a foot above the bathtub. They were perfectly white and perfectly round like polished cue balls. Each had a pinprick of black in the center of each. I was stricken with a hot, burning panic as my limbs froze and my stomach felt like it had turned to bricks. I watched these two eyes rise up from the tub, then silhouetted by and then blocking the street light pollution streaming in from the window. A large, hulking mass was silhouetted. The mass grew limbs and more white, piercing eyes as it waded out of the tub and closer to the threshold of the bedroom. I turned the flashlight on and I slowly pointed it towards the entity. Struck by the light, the entity was revealed as a fleshy pink, powdery white, and deep black sack of amorphous human limbs, heads, and melted dripping flesh with blank eyes. It seemed to bubble up and expand like a thick stew sealed under a thin layer of stretchy skin. It hit the ceiling and pressed through the doorway. Random arms, legs, fingers, thumbs, and toes popped out of the mass as it grew and moved. The limbs seemed to emerge out of the mass intact before turning white and black with chemical burns, exposing layers of dissolving flesh, running blackened blood before melting down to polished bone, which would then flake away back into a mound of human stew. It took me a few seconds to notice the burning bleach-like chemical smell filling the room and burning my nostrils. I yelped out a tiny bit as the entity hovered into the room on a bed of white caustic vapors. As it undulated towards me, spreading half heads and sets of pupilless eyes, I got the sense that this entity was specifically targeting me. I wanted to wake Lacey all the way up. I wanted her to see it. She was just lying there, half asleep, totally oblivious to the hell encroaching upon our bed. It was getting hard to breathe as my nose and eyes started to water on the biting vapor. I heard racing footsteps come from the bottom of the stairs, from the end of the hallway, and I was even more terrified about what was coming in fast now. But it was Gizmo. He burst into the room with a howling, rolling meow, almost as if the tiny tiger was trying to roar. The entity let out a horrible shriek and seemed to collapse upon itself, folding in half while retreating back into the bathroom. I watched as the entity punched its way out of the bathroom through the window, shattering real glass as it sucked itself out of the condo. Gizmo continued to roar at the entity at the top of his tiny lungs. At that point, to my deepening shock, I witnessed the bathtub levitate to the height of the window, and then wedge itself through the window, through the wall, and out of the condo, leaving a gaping hole in the exterior wall through which the remaining vapors evacuated. Gizmo came running out of the bathroom, and to my legs and feet, at which he circled in a figure eight and purred the loudest I ever heard him purr. Lacey was now fully roused and yelling. I don't remember exactly what she was saying at first, but she became more irate and agitated as she surveyed the incredible damage to the bathroom. My ears rang like they had been hit by blast. The clearest thing I could hear and remember was Gizmo's purring. Lacey grabbed my hand, and I seemed to pop out of my terrified trance. We went outside, and we could find no trace of the bathtub, or the monster tied to it. Needless to say, we moved out the next day. The damage to the bathroom and the exterior wall had proved to be so extensive that the condo was deemed uninhabitable. The repair crews also found dangerous levels of a combination of lye and hydrochloric acid throughout the house. The insurance company was at a loss for explanation, but they eventually settled on it, uncovering it, calling it a freak lightning strike. Gizmo settled in nicely to our new unit, and I never told Lacey exactly what I saw that night. I just tried to do my best to keep it out of my mind. Gizmo returned to his happy self. It was apparent to me that Gizmo had fought some sort of cosmic revenge battle against the entity that apparently ambushed and killed his buddy Gadget. It took me many peaceful months to return to my state of calm. One night, out of the blue, while watching a Netflix documentary with Lacey on, of all things, serial killers, I finally got the explanation on what this monster truly was. One of the segments on this documentary disturbed Gizmo, who began to pace back and forth in front of the TV, unleashing that hideous howl I heard only during that battle with the monster. Apparently, he wanted me to pay attention to this segment. It was about a turn-of-the-century serial killer who had a booby-trapped murder castle in Chicago. His name was Henry Howard Holmes. While the documentary focused on the grisly details of his victims' torture and murder, the most relevant part was how he disposed of the victims' bodies, using bathtubs and vats of lye and acid to dissolve their remains. It occurred to me that the HHH painted in gold on the side of the tub was indicative of his previous ownership and apparent use of the tub for the chemical disposal of the remains of his victims. The entity itself was apparently a cursed, chemically fused amalgamation of his countless victims. How exactly Lacey's grandmother came into possession of it is a mystery, but it occurred to me that it had been probably entirely innocent. It is likely in that shed undisturbed for decades. After the segment, Gizmo jumped from the TV stand to the bed and curled up on my stomach. He blinked at me with his slow, loving blink and fell asleep on me. I stroked his fine fur while he periodically purred, and I finished the show with Lacey. I had a sense of closure at that point. I felt like if I brought it up again to Lacey, she would just call me crazy, and maybe she would be right. Cats are indeed haunted, possessed little adorable demon critters, and they're really good at detecting and protecting your home from other haunted, possessed, much larger, less adorable demons. If they love you, if they want to be in your home, then you are truly blessed and truly protected from things better left unseen.